Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got a bunch of Commanders news and rumors to cover on today's program. First, we got a new update from Ian Rapoport on a potential Trey Hendrickson trade. Then I'll also go over a new Commanders edge rusher target that was just released by his respective team this afternoon. And then we'll go over a potential running back free agency target as well that somebody is comparing to James Conner. All right, so before we get into all the content today, if you want a shout out on a future edition of the Commanders Report, everyone that puts a super thanks on today's show is going to get a shout out on a video that we do next week. All right, so if you don't know what a super thanks is, it's like a little bit of a tip that you give to me and you give to Joey and our entire team here at the Commanders Report. What you do is you click the icon below this video that looks like this. It's the heart with the money sign, and you donate any dollar amount. You can also put a message in there if you want. And next week on a video, we're going to put all the names of the people that send in a super thanks on today's video, and we will give them a shout out on that show. So if you want a shout out on the show, send in a little bit of a tip. We greatly appreciate all of your guys' support here on the channel. So we did get a little bit of a Trey Hendrickson update, and of course we've been waiting for a potential trade because Hendrickson would be an awesome addition to the Commanders defense. But Ian Rapoport went on the Pat McAfee Show today, and he says that the Bengals want to find a way to get an extension done with Hendrickson, and that it sounded like the feeling is mutual between Hendrickson and the team. This is what he had to say on McAfee earlier today. I think the Bengals and Hendrickson want to do a deal. I would never rule out a trade, but I think the Bengals want to keep him. The Bengals sometimes function differently, maybe a little bit slower than some organizations, but they do want to keep him and do a deal. So my read of the situation here, guys, is, if the Bengals are really looking to move him, they probably would have moved him before or during the NFL draft, all right? So it sounds to me, especially with this new report from Rapoport, that a trade for Trey Hendrickson is probably not going to happen, and if it does happen, it's going to be like a last-minute thing. It's going to be like, oh my gosh, we're getting close to the season and we're still far apart in negotiations. We have to trade him, sort of deal. All right. So, with that in mind, who are some of the other top edge options that are out there for the Washington Commanders? That should be the question on everybody's mind, because I do think that this team could definitely still use an edge rusher, especially as a designated pass rusher to replace Dante Fowler Jr., who left this team to go back to the Cowboys and had 10.5 sacks for this team just last year. But today, Jadeveon Clowney, somebody that's been a very productive player in the National Football League for many seasons now, was just released by the Carolina Panthers, making him an unrestricted free agent. And for me personally, guys, I would be down to sign Jadeveon Clowney. Okay, he is somebody that is a very good stunt technician. He's very powerful, and he's got great explosiveness to his frame. And if you know anything about Dan Quinn, if you know anything about Joe Witt Jr., the way they like to generate pressures is to do a lot of stunts and gains and twists and loops and all these different games that they play at the line of scrimmage to get people open and to really force an offensive line to really pick up these stunts and, play really intelligent football. And, Clowney's the type of athlete that has really thrived in this style of defense before. He did that back in 2023 when he played with the Baltimore Ravens. Last year, he spent the season with the Carolina Panthers, had 5.5 sacks and 9 TFLs. But that 2023 season was a really good one. He was their number one edge rusher there in Baltimore in a year where they were the number one overall seed in the AFC, and was one of their key defensive pieces. He had 9 TFLs and 9.5 sacks. It's very similar to the number that Dante Fowler Jr. had in this defense just last year, and also forced 2 fumbles. So I still think that this is somebody that can get the job done, especially as a designated pass rusher type, kind of in that Dante Fowler type of role in this defense. Now, you don't have to get Jadeveon Clowney. There's still plenty of other options out there on the free agency market. Zadarius Smith also had some pretty decent production last year with the Detroit Lions, specifically towards the end of the year. Von Miller, who had 6 sacks last year and can still be a very valuable designated pass rusher, is still out there. Matthew Judon is somebody that I think would really fit the defensive kind of scheme that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want to play here. Preston Smith and Carl Lawson, I think, are probably a step down from the rest of the guys we've talked about today, but those guys are certainly former starters that have had productive seasons in the National Football League. And then if you really want to still trade for an edge rusher, I think 3 options on the market right now are Odafe Oweh from the Baltimore Ravens, especially if like the Ravens bring back Jadeveon Clowney, which is very possible. I could see them unloading Owe, who just had like 9.5 sacks just last year. So he's somebody that I think could be a really good fit here. Tyree Wilson, former high draft pick, very powerful player. There's been some rumors that the Raiders might be willing to let him go for the right price. And then A.J. Epinesa, they bring in Joey Bosa this offseason. Of course, they still have Greg Rousseau there in Buffalo. So Epinesa is somebody that I think fits kind of the mold of the defensive end type that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. like to have here in Washington. And for the right price, they might be willing to make a deal. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which edge rusher would you like the Commanders to bring in this offseason? Do you want to wait for a trade to surface with Trey Hendrickson? Do you want to go get Jadeveon Clowney? Do you want Von Miller? Who do you want? Let me know down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know which edge rusher you'd like to add to this room. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels to pick up your brand new Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey today. It also helps out the channel financially because if you go to chatsports.com/Daniels, I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's show, and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report. So if you want to help us out and help yourself out here a little bit and get a jersey that I think you're going to be able to wear for the rest of your life, you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels and get your new jersey today. So now moving on here to the running back position, FanSided's James Dudko suggests that the Washington Commanders should sign veteran wide running back, who just turned 30, by the way, Gus Edwards. All right, and according to James, he thinks that Edwards is a James Conner level player. In fact, his exact quote was, "He is a James Conner clone." Now, in my opinion, Conner is one of the top 10 running backs in all of football. So this is very, very high praise from Dudko. Let's see his reasoning for this potential move. There's still a free agent who could play the James Conner role for the Commanders play caller, talking about Cliff Kingsbury there. Conner became an unlikely and invaluable niche player when Kingsbury signed him for the Arizona Cardinals back in 2021. There are similarities between his arrival in the desert and what veteran Gus Edwards would bring to Washington. What the Cardinals were missing was power between the tackles and somebody to punch it in at the goal line. Conner ticked both those boxes by pounding his way for 752 rushing yards and a career-high 15 touchdowns in 2021. He also did most of the work, 69 carries in the opponent's half of the field. Conner proved automatic by scoring all 15 of his rushing touchdowns from inside the 20-yard line. Delivering a thump is the core part of Edwards' game. He couldn't do it often enough for the Chargers because of an ankle sprain that sent him to the injured reserve, but the 30-year-old is the kind of tough veteran the Commanders are building their roster around. Now listen, man, I think that whenever you throw the name James Conner out there, he's one of the best running backs in the entire league, okay? So you have to really live up to that, and I'm not sure Gus Edwards is exactly that good of a running back where he's a top 10 level guy in the league, but I do see James's point here because he is a very powerful guy. He is somebody that can run in between the tackles, and he's somebody that can get yardage after contact, all right? And right now, you look at this room with Brian Robinson Jr., right now B-Rob is kind of like your power back, and even though he's got some good size, I don't know if I'd necessarily characterize him as a thumper the way that I would characterize Gus as a thumper. Then you got guys like Austin Eekeler, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Jacory Croskey-Merritt. I wouldn't characterize any of these guys, Jeremy McNichols, as power guys. So if they really wanted to get that quote-unquote James Conner role going in Cliff Kingsbury's offense this year, and you want somebody to operate within the structure of the, short yardage, red zone, get you some touchdowns kind of deal, I honestly think B-Rob is kind of the guy that they envisioned for that role. But if they wanted to add a guy to play that role, I wouldn't mind adding Gus Edwards whatsoever. I wouldn't be mad at that whatsoever. He's a good player. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think that he can be a good addition for the Washington Commanders. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you sign Gus Edwards for a team-friendly deal to become this team's new power back? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. For me, for the right price, especially if it's like vet minimum, which it could be at this point, sign me up every single day of the week. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you guys for making it to the end of today's show and supporting our channel here. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got in-depth, informative, free Commanders content on this channel every single day. So if you don't want to miss any of it this offseason, heading into the 2025 regular season, click that subscribe button right now. And until next time, guys, go raise some hail.